The new Krakoan era of the X-Men titles has its first spin-off this week with Marauders #1 by Gerry Duggan, or is it Duggan, and Matteo Lolli. And this is the first title that hasn't been written by Jonathan Hickman. So after 13 weeks of Hickman exclusive comics with Powers of 10, House of X, and last week's X-Men #1, we've got a different writer's voice with this new status quo. And it's interesting. It's not quite a totally abrupt tonal shift, but it's definitely a different author's voice. And overall, it's entertaining, but not without its flaws. So let's get into it. We're going to review it and spoil it pretty heavily. So there's your warning for that. If you didn't already know, Marauders #1, the star of this book is Kitty Pryde, aka Shadowcat, aka Sprite. But now she's going by Kate Pryde. And I think there's been some speculation that she is becoming the Red Queen now. I think prior covers for upcoming issues have revealed that she is at this point possibly an unknowing pawn of Emma Frost and the Hellfire Trading Company, or is she her own captain? She's the captain now, or is she? But the basic plot of this book is that Kate Pryde is, funny scene at the very beginning, she is unable to use the Krakoan gate. She tries to walk through one in Central Park to go to the island of Krakoa, just bonks her nose right on it. It's a comedy staple right out of the Joker movie and other places. But she breaks her nose, so she's got this new look for the rest of the issue too. She's got a fairly stylish bandage over her nose after failing to walk through a gate. So if she can't walk through a gate, how is she going to get to the island to hang out with the other mutants? Well, I guess she'll just have to charter a ship. And this is where our first text piece comes into play. It is what some military naval operation sending messages about what the mutants are up to on Krakoa. And they're saying, well, it looks like one of our ships has been stolen by the Shadowcat character, and she's leaving messages in a bottle. But anyway, she steals the ship from San Diego, is writing in her journal on the way and tearing out the pages, leaving them in bottles. The humans find the messages, and then they reprint it for us on this page. But it's kind of funny. It's, again, not a complete tonal shift, but the humor in this book is maybe a tad bit sillier than it has been in Hickman's issues, barring the appearances of Mr. Sinister and some of the actions of Nimrod. They got a couple few very humorous moments, but there's a couple few more, I would say, in this issue of Marauders. In fact, one of the very next humorous beats in this issue is another silly moment with Wolverine kind of spazzing out as his delivery arrives to the island, because this is what Kate Shadowcat is up to. She's delivering to Wolverine his Canadian Club whiskey, gross, his suds, his subs, his Cubano sandwiches. What else did he get? Oh, coffee, of course, and pomade. Keep that one under your hat. But, he's getting so excited, he just runs out from the shoreline onto the ship to grab the keg and the case of whiskey. I guess they ran out because, at the end of House of X, they had a party, they had beers there, they had bottled suds, but I guess they ran out. The other thing that's kind of silly about that is, I'm not, there's a limit here on Kate being able to go through the gates, but I thought that they were able to transfer material goods. I know they were growing pretty much everything on the Krakoan island that they could eat, not whiskey, not coffee though, but I still thought they were able to just transfer goods through these gates, but maybe not. I'm not sure if it's quite Terminator rules. I mean, I know it's not Terminator rules if they could move more than human flesh through the gates. I mean, they're moving their costumes, but who's to say? What are the rules at this point? They're not entirely locked down. Another confusing thing in terms of the rules is that, on the ship later, they find Pyro. Pyro just wakes up, and it's not the new Pyro, one of the second or third editions of Pyro. This is the original Australian Boyo Pyro. And apparently he just says, look, I was one of the first to get resurrected. Now I'm back, which, again, I'm not sure what the rules were there. I thought they had to have, a mind map set out, and they had to, do the backup copies of mutants. They had to be, it couldn't just be people who had died months or years ago. They had to have basically their brain patterns and their genetic material ready to resurrect them. But I could be wrong about that. I'm not sure what the rules are. Anyway, the big plot point for this issue is that Emma Frost has recruited Shadowcat, Kate, the new Red Queen, to be the captain of a ship that will help, be a scourge of the high seas, be a pirate presence to make sure that the X-Men and the Hellfire Trading Company control the black market prices for the life-saving drugs, even among the nations and countries that refuse to recognize Krakoa as its own sovereign mutant state. And so Kate, gladly takes the job, unbeknownst to her that she is not, well, she does know that she wasn't the first person to be offered this job. Aurora Storm had turned Emma Frost down, but according to Sinister Secrets in the back of the issue, she was actually the third person, the third mutant probably, to get this offer. So who was the first? Well, your guess is as good as mine. We do see on the ship Iceman, Pyro, Storm, and Kate, and on the cover we know that also part of the team is Bishop, but Bishop's on his own mission in Taipei in this issue. It's possible he might have been the first one offered the gig, but did not take it. But still, that is a plot point yet to be revealed in future issues. So that's all the main characters in the book and basically what they're up to. That's the plot. So the other character, everyone's favorite pet mutant, Lockheed, is in this issue. And he's kind of reverted to type. He's back to the sort of original interpretation of Lockheed as this less than verbose, that is to say, absolutely silent, loyal steed, loyal companion for Shadowcat. This is going back to his appearance in the early 80s in issue 166 by Chris Claremont and Paul Smith. And really, I think you got to give a lot of credit for the early characterization of Lockheed to Paul Smith. He very much wanted to draw this dragon-type character. And the evidence of this is not just how much he was drawing him in his issues of X-Men with Shadowcat, but also when he did his own series years later. He did an Image series called Leave It to Chance. And for that young female protagonist, Chance, he also gave her a very similar dragon, this one colored orange, by the name of St. George, who basically had the same power set and personality. But the interesting thing about the personality of Lockheed is how much that has changed over the years, and it has been revealed in the past 20 years or so. I think the first time this happened was when Warren Ellis was writing Excalibur in the 90s. Lockheed can talk. For years he was just silent or would just make dragon noises sort of thing, like not really saying anything. But it turns out he could talk. In Excalibur, he was only talking to Kate's then boyfriend, Pete Wisdom, and he was just saying things like, I hate you, and Kitty doesn't even like you, and no one likes you. But it was kind of a joke, like no one could hear him talk. No one could hear Lockheed talk except for Wisdom. And then later, in Joss Whedon's run on Astonishing X-Men, 5 or 6 years after that, maybe even later, it was revealed again he was just a spy. He was an alien spy the whole time, and he could talk many languages. So there was also a point in there where he was dead, but he came back. He came back. They all come back, even if there wasn't resurrection possibilities. These characters always return when they're needed. But like I said, he's kind of got a reversion to type here of just being that sort of silent, fire-breathing companion. So that's the issue. That's Marauders. This is a good start, maybe a little sillier than the Hickman proper issues, but I'm enjoying it. I'm liking Gerry's writing. I'm liking the jokes. I'm liking Matteo's art. I think this is an appropriate blend of, sort of that cartoony and, more superhero, traditional Buscema style. There's not really a lot of what you would call Buscema in here, but in terms of storytelling, it's very much Marvel Comics appropriate. So I'm liking it. Are you liking it? Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Oh, and one more thing. There are, again, like I mentioned, there's some additional Sinister Secrets at the end. It's hard to say what all those are right now, except for I believe Sinister Secret number 13. We're just counting up. We had 10 before, we got 5 in this issue. So 13 here. This is clearly, I would say, it's not so black and white. Not everyone got their invite. We are talking about Fantomex, Weapon 10 or Weapon 11, Weapon 13. Which one is he? That's right, Weapon 13, Fantomex. He hasn't shown up yet, but I think he'll show up in a later issue of Marauders based on this clue. Also, it's kind of weird. Storm points this out that they're even using. I know they're pirates and they're trying to control the high seas. They're the captains now. But to call themselves the Marauders is fairly insensitive. Storm points it out. She's probably the one who finds it the most insensitive based on the fact that she was, at the time, I believe, technically the leader of the Morlocks when they were all massacred in the Mutant Massacre by, of course, the Marauders. So, again, insensitive use of name, and really the only story cover for that is that Kate just says at one point, I was pressed for time, I was stressed, I just said the first thing that came to mind, look, we're the Marauders now, that's our team, just deal with it. So that's kind of weird. It'll be interesting to see if they do anything else with that, or if it's just, maybe it was just the powers that be said, hey, we want to retain this trademark, Disney and Marvel saying, we've got this trademark on Marauders, we got to keep it, so you got to put it on the cover of something, come up with a story. So that might be the literal reason why it's happened. But again, overall, good book. I enjoyed it. If you liked it, leave a comment below. If you like this video and review, as always, I ask that you smash that like button, subscribe, tap the bell for notifications if you haven't already. And if you're an artist yourself, show me what you got. Post some links to your channel or art below. I'd love to see it. I'm always drawing myself, and if you're an artist, you got to draw every day. That's the only way to get better. So until next time, artists, keep drawing.